Good evening, everyone. My name is Ebony Langford Brown, and I am the Director of Academic Programs. We're so delighted to have you all this evening. I am joined this evening by Peter Ostrander, who is the supervisor for academic programs, and the two of us will be presenting this evening. Our main focus today is to really help you get some information about your local and regional program offerings as we move into next year's season, where you will be looking to start selecting your high schools. So 3 main goals this evening. First, we're going to talk about our local school programs, the benefits of being in those spaces, what all of our local Montgomery County Public Schools high schools will offer, and then we'll look specifically at the offerings in Region 4. Then we will shift our focus to talk about the regional programs, why we're moving in that direction, how it works, as well as the implementation timeline. We'll wrap up together by looking more closely at the program offerings that will be in each of our regions, including what we mean when we say a regional program, as well as the specific program offerings at each of the schools in Region 4. So as we began our planning for this meeting, we were able to get some feedback from some of our seniors. And this is a word cloud that represents what they said when we asked them what they thought about high school, what the first things that come up in your memory about high school. And they came up with memories. You'll see leadership, you'll see achievement. And overwhelmingly, there was excitement. There was excitement as they entered high school, and as much or more excitement as they were exiting high school. So as we are thinking about what happens for our students in high school, we know that it is an exciting time. And one of the measures of success of that time is that you go in with excitement, but you also leave with excitement. As we go through this evening, I want you to keep that in mind, because it's beyond what courses students take, but it's really creating or being in an environment that nourishes and allows your students to continue to grow while they're in high school. So when we think about the pathways to success, getting to that point of excitement, and it being a valuable experience for you in high school, there are 2 pathways to success. One is through your local school programming, and the other is through our regional offerings. So I'm going to have Peter talk a bit about local programs, and then we'll shift to regional programming.
All right, good evening, everybody. So the reason why we start with local programs is because the majority of students in the county are going to attend their locally assigned high school. In Montgomery County, there's a lot of energy put into every high school to make sure that each high school offers a very strong, comprehensive program, as well as some local programs that are available to students in those schools that might not be available elsewhere in the county. Every student will be assigned a base school. That's nothing new in this area. It's a little new to the consortia schools, but it's nothing new here. And if a student chooses to attend their home high school, they simply do nothing and they go to their home high school. And when we look at home high school, there's some really good benefits. First off, you don't have to do much to do that. You're going to be assigned there. Second off, like I said, every high school in this county is going to offer a comprehensive program with advanced level courses in every subject area. Additionally, your local high school oftentimes are your students' friends, right? Because schools are neighborhood based. Your students have grown up playing sports, going to school with a group of people that have articulated through. My kid just graduated from Rockville 2 years ago. He went to Wood, and before that Barnsley, and he had the same friends growing up. He had no interest in doing anything but playing sports with his friends at the high school with his friends, and that was great for him. So there is that community connection. It's closer oftentimes, so there's benefits to being in your home high school. As I said, every high school is going to offer a strong foundation, right? So if we look on the left-hand side, which is maybe hard to see depending on where you are in the gym or in the auditorium, there's going to be a strong foundation for every student. Every student will be able to meet the graduation requirements they need for the state of Maryland at their home high school. I feel silly saying that, because if we didn't do that, that would be probably a big flaw in the system. So everybody will be able to graduate high school if they attend a high school in Montgomery County. But they're also going to have a lot of AP courses, advanced courses, and different types of course progressions unique to their school. So for advanced courses, you're in every school, no matter what other things are happening. In every school, you're going to have advanced courses in math, English, social studies, science, world language, arts. All right. All of those things are going to be available at all schools. The regional program model Ms. Langford Brown is going to talk about that doesn't impact this, right? It doesn't impact the school's ability to offer advanced courses in those areas. Additionally, there are student supports that are going to be available in every school, and these range from supports for students with learning disabilities, English language learners, through social emotional support through programs like Bridge to Wellness. So every school is going to have those same supports regardless of school you go to, and those are available to everybody in the building. Now, this region is made up of 4 schools: Churchill, Richard Montgomery, Wootton, and Rockville. And like I said, my son went to Rockville, but I'll promise I won't play favorites when we start talking about these schools. All right. Each of these local schools has local programs. So if we look at Winston Churchill has dual enrollment options. They have an Academy of Technology, Engineering, and Math that's available to everybody. So in that school, so if Churchill is your home school and that's where you attend, you'll have access to that academy. Additionally, they have local programs, CTE programs. CTE stands for Career and Technology Education. They're often aimed at getting some sort of industry certification within those subject areas. So they have those programs in broadcast media and in computer science. The Fire Science and Rescue is not actually located at Churchill. It's located at a fire training center somewhere in Montgomery County, but students from every school can apply to that. And then they have the student supports that we saw before. All right. We go to Richard Montgomery, just down the road. So they have a dual enrollment option, but they also have an IB middle years program, right? And you'll see some things pop up in both local and regional options, and that's because for those programs, there's both local and regional programs that are somewhat related. For their CTE programs, you're going to see some similar ones to Churchill, as well as for support, although they have a Community Bridges program at Richard Montgomery. Look at all the great things at Rockville. Rockville's a great school. So they also have dual enrollment programs. They also have an international baccalaureate program. They also have a broadcast journalism academy, right? And the gentleman who was helping us with the AV earlier, he works with that program here at Rockville. They have CTE programs in engineering and biomedical science. They have a hospitality and tourism program. They have a child development program. They have computer science program as well. Fire science is not listed, but students can still access it from here. And the student supports, they have some of the similar things, but we add in a George B. Thomas Center on Saturdays and Achieving Collegiate Excellence and Success, ACES. That's a program through Montgomery College, which helps with students with scholarships and college searches and things like that. All right. Great school. And then there's Wootton. No, I'm kidding. Wootton's a great school too. All of these schools are great schools. That's the point of this, right? So Wootton, you're going to have advanced academics and dual enrollment. They have a humanities signature program. And again, so if your local school is Wootton, these are things you're going to have access to. They have a science capstone program. For CTE, they're going to have a web design program, child development, computer science, IT, networking, and then student supports as well. So you'll see that every high school in this region will be able to meet most students' needs. They're going to provide everything for graduation. They're going to provide advanced level courses across the spectrum of courses that we offer here in Montgomery County. They're going to have all the athletic programs, all the clubs, right? And they're going to have some local things that you as a student or as a parent might be interested in, right? So as a student, when you're looking at those, you're like, yeah, I like broadcast journalism, right? And if I'm a local student here at Rockville, you're going to say, yeah, this is great. That's what I want to do. I want to go to Rockville, my home school, be with my friends, study broadcast journalism, right?
The next part of our presentation will be about the regional programs. And we're going to start with thinking about why we're moving to that model and how it actually works. So we The regional programs are where we're dividing the county up into 6 regions, and within each of those regions, there are 4 to 5 schools. In that region of schools, there will be offerings for students to apply to attend a school within that region if there's a program of interest to them. So if I'm at Wooten, I can apply to any one of the programs or any one of the schools in that region. We are moving in this direction because, as you're aware, we have several magnet programs. We have programs at Blair, we have programs at Richard Montgomery, also at Poolsville. And historically, we have about 3,000 students apply for those programs, and we're able to offer across the county about 300 seats annually. And by moving to a model where each of the regions has those programs as well as others, that creates more opportunities for students because each region will have 30 to 60 seats per grade level per program each year. So the other reason we're moving in that direction is because of some of the other limitations with the current model, which include proximity to people's homes as well as transportation. Currently, one of our programs, Richard Montgomery, has 24, 26 buses, but the program, the VAC program at Einstein, does not have any transportation for students, and that creates some inequities. The reason that there's that difference is that as some programs were brought on, there was money associated with it. So they were through grants, and as a result, we were able to provide transportation. But at other times, we're not able to do that. So by moving to a regional model where the schools are closer to people's homes, we are eliminating that barrier of location. In addition, if a student applies to a program that's not in their host school, in their home school, they will get transportation to the school to which they're located. Where the program is located. So transportation will be provided. And the model for that transportation will be similar to what we have now, where there are centralized stops. It could be a library or a school or a community center. But the thinking is that students will get transportation within their region to their schools. And I saw a hand, and we will take questions later in the presentation, okay? And so that's the what and the why, okay? So now I want to talk a bit about four things that are really important for you to understand about regional programs. First is that every high school will be a host school for a program. So most schools will have 2, some I think have upwards of 5, depending upon what those themes are. And those schools that have 5 typically are those who are hosting the arts. So we may put all the arts at one building. So every school in the region will be a host to a regional program. Second thing that I want to emphasize is that being in a regional program or applying to a regional program is optional. You do not have to apply to a regional program. If you are interested, however, in specializing, you must apply, okay? But you must apply to participate in a program. The third thing that I wanted to uplift, enhanced opportunities. So I want to be clear that the regional program offering that a school might host doesn't replace the programming. It is in addition to the programming that school has. And as Peter mentioned, all of our high schools will continue to offer all of the programs and requirements for students to earn their high school diploma. So there'll be no change in programming at the local schools. Any program that you host brings additional opportunities to that building where students are able to specialize. So I did want to take a minute to share the actual regions and the schools that are in them. And for the people in the back, I'm going to go ahead and read. Region 1 is Bethesda, Chevy Chase, Blair, Whitman, Einstein, and Northwood. And you'll see they're at the southern part of the county. Region 2, Blake, Paint Branch, Springbrook, and Sherwood. Region 3, Woodward, Kennedy, Walter Johnson, and Wheaton. Region 4, Richard Montgomery, Rockville, Churchill, and Wooten. Region 5, Magruder, Gaithersburg, Quince Orchard, and Watkins Mill. And Region 6 will host Seneca Valley, Clarksburg, Damascus, Poolesville, and Northwest. All right. So one of the requirements for being a part of a regional program is that you have to be admitted, you have to apply and be admitted. So there are 3 different types of regional program offerings. One is criteria-based, a second type is interest-based, and a third type is interest-based with criteria. So for criteria-based programs, those are the programs in which students have to meet some academic markers to be eligible to participate in those programs. We will look at a variety of things based on the program of interest. So we'll be looking at grades from grade 7 and 8. We'll look at MAP scores, either MAP M or MAP R. We'll take a look at your MCAP scores as well. And so there'll be a variety of data points that we'll use to determine student eligibility for those programs. For our criteria-based programs in the arts, there may be a portfolio or an audition for students as well. We'll be asking students to provide an interest statement as well. And so there'll be a variety of things for those criteria-based programs where there are academic measures that you'll have to meet in order to be a part of those programs. The second type of program are interest-based programs. And those are programs for which students just say that they're interested in them. And they apply, they say there's an interest in that program, and they will be considered. Selection for those is via lottery. So for interest-based programs, you apply saying you're interested in participating in that program, and students will be put into a lottery and selected in that way. The last type of program is one in which it's interest-based, but there are criteria associated with it. And the only program in that category is middle college. So middle college is an opportunity for students to work on both their high school graduation requirements as well as their associate degree at the same time. So by the time they graduate high school, the intention is for them to get a high school diploma as well as their AA. That's the middle college program. So for that program, students will apply because they're interested in it. But in order for you to advance through that program, you're going to need to meet some criteria. So you can't take the college courses if you don't pass certain things. So the criteria is related to your success or being able to stay and move through that program. So that's the interest based with criteria. So a little bit more about the application process. Students will apply for these programs through the High School Common App that is in Synergy and Parent View. And there's one application. So you go to one application and you can apply for all the programs of interest in that space. In August, all of the details in terms of when applications are due, all of the criteria for each of the programs and pathways will be available and shared with families. And that's ahead of the time that you'll need to start making decisions about your 9th grade experience. In October, the application window will open, and then you'll have a month to submit your applications, and they will be due in November. And then selection, so the status of your request or your application will all be shared in January. So mid to late January, all students will be notified of the status of their application. Okay, I want to just quickly go over the timeline for implementation for our new regional programs. The current 7th grade students, the class of 2031, will be the first group of students who will go through the new regional model. That means this year, they're in 7th grade. Next year, when they are in 8th grade at the beginning of the school year, they will go through the process of determining if they want to stay at their local school or if they want to apply to any one of these regional programs. So August through when the window opens in October is when they will start that selection process. For students who are currently in grade 8, 9, 10, 11, there is no change to their programming. They will continue in the current model of magnet programs or offerings that we have for students. So there'll be no change for those students. So if you're 7th grade or younger, you'll go through the new regional model, and 8th grade or or beyond, you will continue in the current model. What you'll see highlighted in the thick lines there is that there's a 3-year transition, right? So the first year of implementation, 27-28, when our first group of ninth graders will start, we'll also have students who are in the current model. So the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders will be in the current model. And that will go on for 3 years until all of the students who are not affected by the change have graduated. So there'll be 3 years where there'll be both programs running simultaneously. So by 2030, 31, that will be the first group of students who are all in the new model. Okay. So now I want to shift and get a little bit more specific about our regional model. So what we have done is put our programming into 5 different themes. And the themes are listed here: medical science and healthcare, science, technology, and engineering and math, international baccalaureate, humanities and languages, leadership and public service, visual and performing arts, design and communication. So those are the 5 themes that we will be offering specialized programming in. And I refer to these themes as buckets. Okay. I first want to clarify. So this is a big bucket. It has common topics, common categories of interest. So those are the big buckets, or those themes. And they were selected earlier in our process. We started, I believe, in April, by getting input from our community and our students and our industry leaders and other community partners. There was a survey that went out. I think we got 16,000 responses. And the question was, what would you value as an experience as a student as you go through high school? As a parent, what do you see as valuable for your students, as well as understanding what the industry needs are as students leave high school? And so that's how these 5 broad categories were selected. What I need to clarify is that while this is a bucket, those are the 5 buckets, there are different pathways that are housed in each of those buckets. So in the medical science pathway, a bucket, for example, one pathway that meets that category is biomedical. Another one is biotechnical. Another one is medical assistant, and another one is pharmacy technician. So there are 4 different pathways in the bucket of medical science. In each of our regions, all 5 buckets will be represented. However, the pathways that fill the buckets might be slightly different. So not every region will offer all of the pathways that's available in a particular bucket. And the reason that is occurring is because as we looked at where to place particular pathways or offerings for students, we looked at the assets of the school. So thinking about what they're currently offering, what their facilities will allow in terms of space and structures that are available, like do they have a dance studio and such. And as a result of that, there are some themes that are in a region that was already there, and we were not able to stand it up in a different region for a variety of reasons. So the differences or the nuance that you might see in the offerings for particular pathways is slightly different based on some of the assets that we use to determine where to put different programs. Okay, so I think it's important that we're clear on what we mean when we say a program pathway. So as you are making decisions about applying or not, that you have a clear understanding of what we mean when we talk about these pathways. The first thing is that it's a 4-year comprehensive program with required experiences and planned experiences. So it's for all 4 years. And during that 4-year time, for each of the pathways, there will be cohorted classes. So either 2 or 3 cohorted classes where you're there with your peers who are part of that pathway. So each of our pathways has that requirement. In addition to that, there are expectations for real world opportunities for students in their learning, where they are interacting with the community or with industry leaders or within that profession through internships and such. So, different opportunities for real world experiences in these pathways. In addition to that, each of them has some culminating activity. So either they're going to have a research project or they're going to have a capstone or some type of presentation about the work that they've done in leadership or a portfolio. So different culminating activities. Each of them has a culminating activity. In addition to that, each of them has some type of external validation. So it may be an IB exam or AP exam or an industry recognized credential. But the external validation is going to be based on the particular thing, but each of them has that requirement. In addition, there are co-curricular activities and extracurricular activities that will be required for students. So within each pathway, there will be expectations around particular competitions students might participate in as a requirement of that program, and extracurricular activities as well. So certain clubs or time outside of the school day where students will have some requirements for their participation. And I think I've covered all of those. So it's important for you all to have an understanding that this is a comprehensive program, because as you make the decisions about being in your local school or one of these specialized pathways, this is the expectations here will limit what you can do outside of your particular pathway, because your courses are predetermined for you. There may not be the opportunity for some electives because you do have to meet all of your graduation requirements as well as the expectations outlined in the pathway. And for some of it, many of the courses, they are a graduation requirement, but in some cases they're not. So understanding the extensiveness of the program is important because it will limit some of the other things you can do that you could do had you been in your local program. Okay, so I'm going to go through the offerings at each of the high schools here in Region 4. And before I start, you will see that you see I, that's interest-based. You'll see the C, which is criteria-based. And you'll see at Rockville, you'll see the IC for middle college. So the Richard Montgomery will host the following pathways: theater, music, dance, and IB, the diploma program for International Baccalaureate. Rockville will host the medical science with biomedical, the clinical healthcare, the medical assistant. They will host engineering and middle college. And for the middle college offerings at Rockville, there are two different tracks for you. One will be general studies and the other will be P-Teach. So that's preparation for teaching. Okay, so the AA, so the beginning of your work to prepare to be a teacher. Winston Churchill will host video and audio production, humanities, and critical languages, cultures, and global connections. And the critical language of focus at Winston Churchill will be Chinese. Our last school in the region, Wooten, they will host visual arts, science, math, and computer science, cybersecurity, and leadership for social justice. Okay? So those are the host schools for each of the programs in this region. And as you'll see representation of all 5 themes as indicated by the icons on the side. Okay, so one of the things that we would like to be able to do is go into depth in all those programs so you can leave here with that information. But we have an hour and a half and there was a power outage. So what I will do now is to show you where to find the specific information for those programs. And it'll be available for you on the website. So let's take a look at Rockville High School. They're hosting these 2 medical career programs, the medical assistant as well as biomedical. So let's look at biomedical. So we have a website for high school regional programs. And on that website, here's the QR code. You can access it there. On that website, you'll see that there are options for, at the top, looking at program themes. If you select program themes, then you'll come to a page where it'll say learn more in program themes. Okay. When you select program themes, you'll come to a page that has all of the different program themes, those big buckets. And you'll see videos there where you can get a little bit more information. But you'll also see a listing for each of the pathways in that theme. So you'll see under medical science and healthcare, you'll see the medical science with biomedical, you'll see the biotechnical, you'll see the pharmacy, and you'll see the nursing. And so I'm going to select biomedical. And when I select biomedical, this is what I see. And this will be the same for every program. So first there'll be an overview of the program. Some giving some details of the purpose and the background. There'll be the core experiences that the students will have as they are in this pathway. In addition, there will be program goals listed for each of the pathways. The program goals are in 3 areas: knowledge and skills. There's a second area around hands-on learning and real-world experiences, so the goals for that. And the last area are fostering college and career and community pathways. So they're goals in 3 particular areas. Also, on that page, you will see the application location. So it'll be clear if it's a criteria-based program, an interest-based program, or interest with criteria. And it will list all of the schools that host that particular pathway. In addition, you will find the course progressions. So for each of the pathways, you will be able to see what is required for students in grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. And this will be similar for all of the pathways as you look at that information. Some of them are still being built out a bit. For the most part, however, they're all there, and they will be there and uploaded shortly for some of them that say in progress. The last thing that you'll see for every pathway are the program requirements. So these are the requirements that go beyond the expectations for your regular graduation, for your graduation credits, and they'll be listed there. All right. So for every program, you can find this level of detail. All right. So I want to take a poll in terms of some of the things you've heard about, the buckets and the possible pathways. Just get a straw vote. What are we thinking in terms of what you may be interested in exploring either as a student or a parent? Medical science and healthcare? Couple? Thank you. STEM? Yeah, that tracks with the other meetings that we've had. Great. IB, humanities and languages? That tracks as well. Arts, the arts. Yeah, that's what we've been seeing. Leadership and public service. A little bit different than some of our other evenings. And last, you're still thinking, yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. And you'll have some time to do some investigating. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Peter to talk about the timeline. And then we'll do a couple of questions.
Yeah, on that last one, I'm still exploring my interests. So you got time. Don't worry about it. We talked about the timeline a little bit earlier. There's one date in here that wasn't in that earlier slide. When I was a coordinator of a program, which I was up until February, I would always make sure students and parents know these dates so that no one's blaming each other when they miss these dates, right? So if you're here with a student and parent, both of you remember it. If you're not, you're 100% responsible. So, but for now, what you should be doing is you should be exploring what options there are, right? You guys are here, so that's part of it. Your middle school counselor will help inform you of what options might be out there for high school. In September and October, there's going to be a lot of information sent to 8th grade students next year. So that's the 7th grade students this year. And it will list when we have open houses at each school. So each school in this region will have an open house night. That's going to highlight all of their strong local programs as well as the regional programs. Right? So I strongly suggest you attend at least the one for your home high school so you can learn about options there, and then look at the different regional programs, what you might be interested in, and attend those as well. Doesn't hurt to attend. We don't commit you to anything just by going to a meeting. not those kind of meetings, right? No timeshares to sell either, so it's okay. In September and October, you're going to have applications available. And those applications will be in parent view, not in student view, right? Because you kind of need your parents' permission to apply to these programs, right? Your parents need to know that you're doing this. So it'll be in parent view. And then in early November, that application is due. So you got about a month turnaround. It's not a lot of time. Good thing is it's not a very intensive application. We trimmed it down to like a 50-page essay, right? Yeah, no, it's not that at all. It's checking some boxes for which programs you want to apply, answering a few short questions. All right. Some of the art programs may have some more extensive things later on, but that's done after the application is due. The application itself, fairly easy. And then in January, we'll hopefully have letters to everybody with those selection decisions. All right. Now, some of you have questions. We get that. We're going to go through a lot of the common questions that we get, right? And we'll have some time, and I'll explain at the end how we're going to do questions at the end. But for now, we're just going to go through some of the common ones. These are the ones that happen at other meetings, happened through different presentations as we were preparing for the programs. First, are students required to apply to these programs? No, right? It'd be silly, right, to say you have to apply when you would be happy going to your homeschool and experiencing that great experience you would have there. If that's what you want, no need to apply. However, if you want to be considered for a regional program, whether it's at a school that's not your homeschool or your homeschool, you do have to apply to be considered. But if you don't want to be considered, you don't have to apply. No harm. Can students apply to a program outside of their assigned region? No. So if you live in Region 4, which is where we physically are right now, you can only apply to programs in Region 4. All right? So it would be those programs that Ms. Langford Brown went over. Can students apply in this region? It would be to the Thomas Edison High School of Technology. Yes. The Thomas Edison High School of Technology, which handles the Career Hub programs, that's separate from regional programs, and it pulls from a wider area because a lot of times those programs are very costly and involve, machinery or field work or other things like that. And so those programs are still available, and there's applications for those both at the start of high school as well as for partial day programs when you're heading into 11th grade. So those programs will still exist, still serve the large portion of the county that they do. How many seats will regional programs have? Depends on the program, 30 to 60, maybe a little bit more. Probably no lower than 30 because we need that full section of students. So that's really what you're going to see in these regional programs. They're a little bit smaller than some of our current programs, right? We do have current programs now that serve about 100 students, but that's because we're really reducing the geographical area. So instead of feeding from 16 high schools, those two programs that have 100 seats are now only going to 4 or 5. But we still have 60 seats, which is more seats per school. So still expanding seats. Per year. Yeah, not for, per year. Thank you. 36 over 30 over 4 years, that'd be small classes. So it's 30 to 60 per year. Thank you. Will transportation be provided? Yes. I can talk. Transportation will be provided within the region. So if you live in Region 4 and you're attending a Region 4 program at a school that's not your home school, transportation will be provided. The way transportation currently works is that we use central stops, which are not as numerous as they would be if you were going to your home high school. In your home high school, you might have a stop just down the street. There are no neighborhood stops for the regional programs. There are central stops. They typically stop at schools, and libraries, community centers within the area that you live. They might be a little bit further. They're most likely going to be a little bit further away than that stop for your local high school, but it will be provided within the regions. All right, general admission timeline. We talked about that a second ago. October, look for the information about the evening meetings. They're all going to be in October. Applications due in November, decisions in January. How will MCPS ensure the quality and rigor of the regional programs? right? We could have just left it to chance. We don't think that's a great idea. So we are developing plans for the evaluation of these programs. One of the reasons I shifted from my position as a coordinator over to this position this past winter is to make sure that the programs are being expanded with fidelity, which means that the IB program at Richard Montgomery you still have access to in this region, but the other 5 regions will have their own regional IB. We want to make sure those IB programs are providing the same quality. The Blair Magnet program, the Poolsville Science Math program, we have 4 new sites. We want to make sure those are, so we have started the development of kind of our evaluation toolkit for that. We're also spending a lot of time in schools. I was at 3 schools yesterday working with the humanities program. Humanities for 2 and IB for 1. And we're preparing these schools for what they're going to be getting in a year so that those schools understand. This region, by the way, this region is probably ahead of every other region in terms of the energy that we see from those schools, which is a good thing. Principals are already talking to each other about how to handle it as a region. There's a lot of good things happening here. So I don't doubt that we're going to have some really good programs. The new programs popping up as well as existing programs maintaining their quality. How will MCPS staff these programs with qualified teachers? Government just fired a bunch of scientists, so we got that covered. So we're good. So, but in other areas, we're going to do what we always do, right? We work with our HR department to identify our needs, and they help us recruit qualified teachers. This happens everywhere at every school every year, right? It's a combination of getting that great teacher in front of your kids who knows the content they're supposed to be teaching. And that's a challenge we have constantly in schools, is finding those qualified teachers. If I go to any high school right now and I ask a kid, who's your favorite teacher? They're going to give me a name. There's great teachers at every school, right? No school has a lack of high quality teachers. There were teachers even my youngest liked, and he didn't even want to go to school. So, that happens. But there are great teachers out there, and those teachers exist. The nice thing about these programs is just like they attract students with those interests. So the medical science programs attract students who might be interested in medical science. They also attract the teachers with those interests, right? And so there will be recruiting going on. Some teachers may leave other schools to go work in some of these new programs. We know that's going to happen. The challenge comes in some very specialty courses. If I need a certain type of engineering teacher, certain type of computer science teacher, maybe with expertise in cybersecurity, that takes a little more work. But all the computer science student teachers out of Maryland usually come to MCPS for that reason, so we can recruit them. Now, they do a good job stealing our teachers to go teach over there too, so it's a little bit of a trade, but we do work with the universities as well. The Northeast Consortium and the Down County Consortium, which we are not part of here, they are going to stop existing. So that means that there will be no more school choice after this year's 8th grade is the last grade to participate in that. Next year's 8th grade, the current 7th grade, will not participate in school choice. Instead, they'll participate in program application choice. So it's a different type of choice where you're choosing the academic setting that you want to be in, not just the school you want to be in. How will students and families learn? It's a weird question here because you are kind of doing it right now. These meetings, those October meetings, our website, the high school websites for this particular region, your counseling department will probably have a lot of information for you, if not this year, beginning of next year. So there's a lot of different ways, all right? But you should be starting to look at that now. November, when the applications are due next year, isn't that far into the school year, right? So if you spend some time thinking about what you want to do now, it makes it easier later on, right? Can a student be enrolled in more than one regional program pathway at a time? Okay, when the answer is no. If you look at some of these programs, they're fairly extensive. So if you're doing the medical science program here, that might be 3 courses a year that you have to do just for that program. and then to do the middle college program as well, where you're taking courses at Montgomery College pretty much all day your senior year and a good portion of the day maybe your junior year, you're not going to fit everything in, right? Now, can you access some of those courses? Potentially. For instance, let's say you're going to the music program at Richard Montgomery, right? And you're taking a world language. My guess is when you get to the higher level world languages, you'll be taking IB world language rather than AP world language because they're an IB school. So there will be times when you can access electives from programs that you're not in because you can just take them as a one-off, basically. So that's possible. But you can't do 2 full programs. You want to have time to have fun in high school. Trust me. You want to do activities, clubs, go to football games, do those sort of things, right? So you want to have a life. So no, don't do 2. 1, because it's a bad idea. 2, because it's pretty physically impossible to fit all those courses in. Okay. What happens if a student changes their mind? Not successful in the pathway. 2 different things. If a student changes their mind, let's say they get excited about a certain program, and halfway in, they start to have doubts. And by the end of the year, they're like, yeah, this is not for me. I don't want to do 3 more years of this. Okay? We don't force a student to do 3 more years of torture, right? Our job is not, no matter how much kids say, those teachers just like to make us suffer. No matter how much they say that, that's not what we're out to do, right? So if they feel it's not a right setting, and as a parent you agree, then they would simply return to their homeschool. You always have that right to return to your homeschool. And if your homeschool is that particular school, you're in a program within your school that's your homeschool, you would just transition to the comprehensive program. Now, a student who's not successful, different story. When programs accept your student, you're accepted into that school community. And so that school is going to be responsible for your success, whether you want to be there or not, but they're responsible for your success, right? And that means if you're struggling academically, they're going to support you, right? And they're going to put things in place to help you be successful. Okay? So we're not about kicking kids out, right? That's not what these programs are about. We're not about having some sort of higher level honor code or anything like that. That's not really what we're about. We're about teaching students in content areas that they enjoy, and maybe they weren't prepared as much. Maybe their experiences mean they didn't get some math exposure that they might have needed. Well, we're going to fill in those gaps, and we're going to work with students to make sure they're successful. So the schools are going to do that. All right, some trivia. Prizes today? Still no prizes. All right. Don't worry, we didn't give prizes out at any of the other meetings either. So you're not missing anything. All right. And you can just take a beat after I answer the question and then shout out your answer to a reasonable shouting level. Is MCPS launching all 4 years of the regional programs in 2027 with all rising grades 9 to 12? Absolutely not. We are not crazy. That would be an impossible task. Because first of all, you'd have students starting into the program in 12th grade that may have missed all the needed courses to actually be successful in the 12th grade courses, right? So we're going to start out 9th grade in that year, 27, 28, and add a year every year. Okay, students, you don't have to answer this question the way it's worded. So, my rising grade 8 student must apply to a regional program. No. Students, you heard that, right? So if you don't want to apply to any regional program, you don't have to. And parents, I want you to listen to that. While it's always nice to have opportunities, as a student, if you apply and get accepted, you don't have to go. So there's no harm there. So I would encourage you to apply, even if you have a doubt in your mind. But if you are absolutely set on not going to any of these programs, it doesn't do anybody any good to kind of have that argument later on. And then if you're a parent and you force your kid to go to one of the programs they don't want to be in, that's not really a recipe for success. So I want you as parents really to listen to your students. But students, I also want you to listen to your parents, because your parents are old and they've had a lot more life experience. And they may have made mistakes or seen people make mistakes, and they're going to give you that experience. They may tell you more than you want to hear about the experiences they've had. But listen to that. Okay? Really listen to that. And don't resist, but be open and know that eventually the decision will have to be made and it'll be a joint decision. All right. My student, again, students, you don't have to answer this. My student can take college level courses at their home high school. Yeah. Every high school will have dual enrollment options. So every high school, their counseling program is set up. There's actually a dual enrollment person assigned to every high school. So every high school, there's opportunities to take college level courses. There are 6 specific high schools, one in each region, that have a middle college program. Here it's Rockville. And those programs are aimed at getting students an associate's degree as well as their high school degree. But most schools, dual enrollment, it's a class here, a class there. It's not a full associate's degree. All right. All regions will offer the same 5 program themes. This one always gets people. Because I know you were born knowing the difference between a theme and a pathway. New terminology, right? So the theme are the larger areas. Yes, every region will have programs in every theme, right? But some of the pathways may be different region to region, but the themes will be the same. So the answer here is yes, they will all offer the same 5 themes. There will be medical science programs in every region, subtly different in one case, but same theme. All right. What's the highest number of high schools that are designated to a region? 5. There are 2 regions that will have 5. Region 6, Region 1 have 5 schools. Everybody else has 4. All right. There's some reading with this one. What statement best describes a regional program pathway? All right. A regional program pathway. What did I hear? C? C? Good. Yeah, if the regional program pathway was just a single club, there'd be no reason to change. Why would you change schools for that, right? The regional pathway is a 4-year course of study with required courses and expected experiences, right? So that's what that is. Something different. Which statement best describes the 2? Now, in life, there are more than 2 ways of being successful. But in relation to our presentation today, what statement best describes the 2 pathways to high school success? A. I like that it was the first one because I didn't have to read anything else. Students can succeed either through their local high school or their optional program. There is no bad decision or a bad option there. Every high school in this county prepares kids to whatever they want to do after high school, whether that be going to work, college, service, whatever. Every high school has that capacity. Okay? All right. Contact information. If you have questions, these are the people you ask. I'm the first guy. That's me, Peter Ostrander. Miss Langford Brown. You also heard her and I work in the academic programs office. Miss Vane, who's not here tonight, and Miss Danko and Miss Franklin, who are here tonight from the consortia office. They're right outside. Those are people you can email if you have any questions, those 2 offices. The consortia office, which will probably change names because there will be no more consortia in a year, and academic programs. Also, a bunch of QR codes. It's a good thing we have phones because having to write these down would be problematic. FAQs on the left, those are the questions that we've been asked, some of the ones you saw. Our website second, the themes, if you want to remember what those are, and then a feedback survey. On the right, that's a place to also ask questions if you have questions, but also to give us your feedback on this evening's meeting. If you had the information it does inform our future meetings. And there's no tip jar, so don't feel obliged. It's just answering some questions. It's pretty easy, all right? But we do thank you for coming out. I think this is our largest in-person group, so congratulations, Region 4. and hope to see you in the fall.